To keep her man. I stepped through the gate. My heart was pounding with fear as I observed a severed chicken head lying on the dirty doorstep of the wooden house. The yard was cleanly swept. A lone, straggly orange tree supported a bloody rope. There was a coconut broom resting on the faded blue boards of the one-room dwelling. A basin with water was placed on a wooden table in the center of the yard, a white towel folded neatly beside it. I sniffed the air tentatively as I pushed the gate closed. I could smell the acrid scent of incense and the sickly sweet smell of blood, which I realized was sprinkled around the yard in an uneven pattern. This was the home of Mother Mavis, a spiritual healer, in Jamaican terms, an Obeah woman. Susan convinced me that Mother Mavis was the leader in the field of healing and hindering, so I drove all the way to Clarendon to see her. I was desperate. My boyfriend Sam was leaving me for another woman. The only way that I knew to prevent this was to tie him. It worked for Susan. Since she visited Mother Mavis, her husband Kyle was as obedient as a puppy. Sometimes it seemed that the poor man was in a trance. An old woman in a red tie head with a pencil behind her ears came onto the veranda and stood staring at me. She was short and fat. Plaits of gray hair could be seen sticking through her tie head. Her ebony skin glistened with sweat and her hands dripped with blood. I was ready to bolt. This was unlike anything that I had ever done before. I prided myself on being a sophisticated financial controller with one of the leading companies in Jamaica. Standing in deep rural Clarendon in the seedy yard of an Obeah woman was uncharacteristic. Probably Sam was not worth it. Probably I should just count my losses and kiss our 5-year relationship goodbye. The woman on the veranda approached me and stood on the steps. Her eyes were piercing and cold. "Hick!" she shouted in the silence, her face contorted in pain and her arms spread wide. "Hick to all evildoers and sinful people!" I almost jumped out of my clothes in fright. She clapped her hands and blood flew everywhere, some landing on my light gray suit. "Hick! Me's a mother woman I see ya. I know from where you travel, I know where you want to go." I stood there in stunned silence. This was nothing short of bizarre. I didn't know what to expect, but this was frightening. I found myself backing towards the gate. The mother woman stood there, her piercing black eyes boring into my brain. It was as if she was looking into my thoughts. "Come," she said, her thin lips twisted in a caricature of a smile. "I saw you coming from last week in a dream. Your problems are very big ones." She turned and entered the house, confident that I would follow. With a strong sense of misgiving, I followed her up the blood-sprinkled steps into the dark, musty-smelling interior. She took a match and lit some red candles to illuminate the room. I almost ran out of the house in fright. This seemed like one of those macabre horror movies. On the walls of the unpainted wooden interior, there were shelves with jars containing insects and other weird things. There was what seemed to be a miniature baby in a jar, but I did not want to look too closely. It was gaudily decorated with Rastafarian motifs. A king-sized Bible sat on a stool opened. An assortment of beads and crosses were draped in its middle. A curtain separated the room that we were in from the back of the house. Mother Mavis lit some incense, and the smoke spiraled in lazy circles to the ceiling. She walked in the cramped space of the room and stopped in each corner, mumbling incomprehensible words. The pungent smell of the smoke made me dizzy and lightheaded, and I looked longingly at the door. "Sit," said Mother Mavis, gesturing to the chairs as if she read my mind. I sat down and waited apprehensively for her to join me. "What brings you here?" she asked as she sat in the chair opposite mine. My boyfriend," I stammered as I watched the beads of perspiration on her upper lip. "Man problem," she grinned, and her gold teeth gleamed brightly in her mouth. "What you want to do, tie him or kill him?" "Tie him," I hesitantly said. Hick! She shouted, and pounded the table with her blood-caked hands, her rancid-smelling breath fanning my face. The time is right! Her voice fell to a whisper. Your problem is a everyday problem. What your man name? Sam, I whispered. I looked down in my lap, afraid to keep eye contact. She took down a vial from the shelf behind her and passed it over the flickering candle 3 times. Man want fi left gal, but gal want man, she chanted. Her voice sounded hoarse and ominous. The shadows from the shelves and her moving hand created weird shapes on the wall, giving me goosebumps all over my skin. Man want fi left gal, but gal want man. She placed the vial on the table and spat in her left hand and wiped the spittle over her palm. Aye! Aye! She shouted in alarm. I held on to the rickety table in fright. What is it? I asked, alarmed. You're Sam, she said, her voice gravelly. Is he a homosexual? Him not cheat pon you with woman, him cheat with man. What? I exclaimed weakly, feeling as if I could not take any more. But he was cheating with Daniel. It was just for sure, the old lady said wisely. Him gone to man. But I saw them going into a bridal shop together and choosing rings, I wailed. My eyes pleaded with the old woman to tell me what she was saying was not so. Do you love Sam? She asked, her eyes watery and encased in deep shadows from the candlelight. Of course, we have been together since college. He can't be gay. I felt on the verge of tears and I blinked my eyes rapidly. Okay, tell you what, said Mother Mavis, reaching behind for another vial. This potion will make him straight, but only for 3 months. You have to come back again and again till him gets straighter and straighter. But I live in Kingston. I can't come back so often, I protested. She hissed her teeth and moved to put the vial back on the shelf. Okay. After all, I was doing Sam a favor and I would benefit from his heterosexuality in the end. Mother Mavis passed the bottle over the fire and chanted once more. Then she placed the vial on the table beside the other one. She spat in her hand again and screamed, Aye! Aye! What is it this time? I could feel a dull ache pounding at the back of my head. You're Sam, she sighed and shook her head. Tell me, I almost yelled at the old woman. I'm impotent, she said, her lips pursed. But I had a miscarriage 2 years ago. Aha, that's because all Sam's sperm them dead. No baby could never make with the 2 of you. She reached behind for another vial. This one she held up to the candle and peered into its contents. If you give Sam this, you will have plenty picnic. I nodded dumbly. I was now numb and disheartened. I had no idea that Sam had so many problems. Mother Mavis grabbed something from under the table. I recognized it as a crystal ball. It was just a huge silver ball with glitters in its transparent center. However, she was peering in it with intense concentration. I see a office building, she intoned softly. Is there so you walk? Yes, I said softly, feeling the intensity of the moment. You're there on a desk with enough papers. Oh yes, I'm a financial controller. I swore I heard Mother Mavis mumble, Thank God you're not a lawyer, but I was not sure. That's it for today, said Mother Mavis as she slowly took her eyes off the ball. But I haven't heard anything about me and Sam. All in due time, my child, all in due time. She held up the vials and started dropping them into a paper bag. Give him the straightener before him go to bed, in him tea, okay? I nodded mutely. Member say is every 3 months you must come for this one. She then held up the other vial. This one is oil a tie him. Rub him up with it every day. This one is the baby maker. Put it in him food. She then leaned back in her chair and paused for a second. That will cost you $30,000. I gasped. My mouth must have been hanging open because she cackled. Them don't cheap. That's why it's pure high-class people may accept as client. May accept Visa and MasterCard, but me would have much prefer cash. I stared at her stupefied. Okay, she said. Give me half and half. Half cash and pay for the rest with credit card. I took the vials and gave Mother Mavis $15,000 cash and paid the rest by credit card. I left the dark room of the house with Mother Mavis shouting, "Hick to all sinners and whoremongers," in my ears. On my way back to Kingston, I reenacted the events of the day and doubts began to flit across my mind about Mother Mavis. I wondered how authentic this woman could be. By the time I reached Kingston, I was convinced that I was well and truly conned. To make matters worse, I found out that Sam was shopping with Danielle for an engagement ring for me. Her fingers were similar in size to mine. He wanted me to have a perfectly sized ring. When I got home and took a closer look at the contents of the vials, my doubts began to resurface. It had a red hue and tasted like cherry syrup. I paid $30,000 for 2 vials of cherry syrup and 1 vial of ketchup. I can't tell Sam of my exploits. He would laugh me to scorn. I have definitely learned a thing or two about trust and communication in a relationship. Since that incident, we got married and we now have 2 healthy children without the aid of Mother Mavis's concoctions. As for Mother Mavis, I went back to the broken down house, but she was nowhere to be found. The place looked abandoned. She must have hidden when she saw me coming. If you enjoyed this, like, comment, and subscribe. Check the description box for more stories and find my books on Amazon. See you in the next story.